I'm going to ask now Honorable Eliuda Tumwesige, Ministry from the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation in Uganda. So to give his perspective, Minister, I know that you are part of the East Africa. We are talking about the bioeconomy strategy. We wish to really learn from the Ugandan approach to this bioeconomy strategy, but particularly to see how do you think Uganda can contribute to the region, but also tap the opportunities by the bioeconomy. So, Honorable Minister, so we are happy to listen to you. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. I want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers for giving me this chance to address this audience. I'm delighted to be part of the first East African Conference on Bioeconomy and to acknowledge the significant contributions East Africa Science and Technology Commission has made to our understanding of bioeconomy. I also wish to bring you greetings from Uganda, where His Excellency President Museveni established a standalone Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation in June 2016. And I was lucky to be appointed as its first cabinet minister. We are now working on bioeconomy policy and strategy, of course, in collaboration with the ISTACO. Recently, we even had to hire some people, especially deputy head of the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology with a PhD in biosciences to indicate the importance we are attaching to biosciences. Uganda, now we are planning to have or to establish science and technology parks focusing on biosciences. In such parks, we are hoping to establish requisite technological infrastructure, such as research labs, technology development workshops, prototyping facilities, testing and analytical facilities, among others, in the same location to facilitate the entire product and technology development process into commercial interests. A fundamental feature of these parks would be that they will bring together technologists, researchers, and knowledge generators with commercial entities in the same location to enable easy translation of research and development outputs into commercialized outcomes by way of new bio-based products that one can touch or process or services. For researchers and technologists, these parks will provide one-stop access to state-of-the-art R&D facilities, technology expertise, technology transfer, product development expertise, world-class testing and analytical facilities, among others. For commercial entities which are maybe on this call, the parks will be in Uganda would typically lease out testing space, office space, to enable them collaborate and tap directly into and drive the park's technology development systems. So by and large, this park focusing on biosciences will act as a technology development platform that will facilitate and spur the growth of bio-based medium and small-size medium enterprises, micro enterprises, through developing bioinfrastructure for industry-specific applied biosciences, research and technology development, bioentrepreneurship, bioventures, incubation for industrialization, and all that. They also serve for enterprise development in the following focus areas. We are focusing on commercial insects, including sericulture and apiary, development of high value and innovative food products and processing aids, such as food additives, enzymes, bionutraceuticals, livestock and fish feeds, biomass-based renewable energy, biofertilizers and biopesticides, biomaterials, biofibers and biotextiles, biopharmaceuticals, biocosmetics, biocatalysts and enzymes, flavors and fragrances, microproduction for industrial and environmental applications, biodegradable packaging, as well as circular economy, including bio-waste valorization. I therefore take this opportunity to welcome all of you, scientists, innovators, bio-based companies, investors, and financials to come and work with my ministry to realize this dream and spur bioeconomy in East African region. Uganda is present, peaceful, and profitable. The 3 Ps. You are all welcome to Uganda. And of course, with respect to other East African governments, we have developed incentive mechanisms, develop enabling policies and regulatory frameworks that create a demand for commercialization of bioscience technologies, and establish comprehensive financing mechanism framework for bringing bio-based science technologies to the market. Maybe I will be able to add more, particularly on proposed policy requirements and many others during the discussions. I want to thank you once again for the opportunity, and I'm available to add more as well as answer any questions.
We know that Ethiopia is a country which is also part of the network of the East Africa, and is represented here by His Excellency Ahmedine Mohamed Ahmed, State Minister, ICT and Digital Transformation sector. So we want to hear, would like to hear from Ethiopia as far as the approach of the country to bioeconomy, and how Ethiopia thinks they can contribute to bioeconomy development. So, Honorable Minister, the floor is yours for giving your talk.
Thank you, Dr. Ignace. Honorable Ministers, Commissioners, Director Generals, distinguished experts and participants, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to join you virtually on the behalf of my Minister, His Excellency Dr. Abraham Bele, to be part of this panel discussion on this timely issue of regional bioeconomy strategy with a focus on sustainable bioeconomy as a driver of growth in East Africa. We all know the East Africa region in general, and Ethiopia in particular, are home to myriads of geographical and climate variations, which has given rise to diverse ecological systems. These diverse ecological features have endowed the region with a variety of agroecological zones that harbor rich fauna and flora, making it an important center of origin, diversity, and endemism. In addition, the region is suitable for domestication and agricultural development. Reports indicate that the economies of countries in the Eastern Africa region, including Ethiopia, are mainly based on agriculture, and over 30% of the region GDP is directly attributed to agriculture and other bioeconomy related sectors. The countries are endowed with rich but largely unexplored biodiversity and a strong bioresource production based due to the reason I mentioned earlier. However, the countries have not been able to apply technologies and know-how that could modernize agricultural production, bioprocessing, and value addition to meaningfully impact their economic growth and development. Specifically, Ethiopia is dominantly an agricultural country characterized by a high percentage of rural poor, high rates of subsistence agriculture, and food insecurity. Historically, food production in Ethiopia has been severely affected by intermittent rainfalls, and extended droughts, resulting in crop failures. However, the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia has reaffirmed its commitment by developing appropriate policies and strategies to reduce their impacts and ultimately alleviate poverty. Especially in the past 2 years, since the current reform, the current government under the administration of His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, we designed homegrown economic reform and designed a lot of reforming policies that are being implemented in Ethiopia. Accordingly, Ethiopia has registered spectacular growth in many sectors in the past 2 years of the economy. This unprecedented pace of growth is expected to continue and strengthen over the coming years to drive the country from a largely agrarian economy towards building a strong, knowledge-based industrial foundation. It is aspiration to become middle-income country. Ethiopia has identified modern science and technology, innovation, specifically biotechnology, and newly emerging technological advances or future industries as key to address issues of food and nutritional security, health and environmental challenges. In line with this, our government has put together a visionary and bold strategy and has already developed 10 years national development grand plan to make the country prosperous. To implement this, it has formulated a digital transformation strategy. We call it Digital Ethiopia 2025, which is a plan to transfer the analog economy to a digital economy with achieving inclusive prosperity. And a roadmap for biotechnology research and development at national level are some of the implemented and formulated policies and roadmaps. Our government firmly believes that digital economy and bioeconomy, research and development could play critical role for our sustainable economic development. Globally, we are facing an increasingly greater challenge of supplying enough food, water, energy. According to UN report, the world population is expected to reach 9 billion by 2050, which demands a 70% increase in food supply. This development makes it clear and calls for new and innovative ways of thinking to address the challenges, and governments have to lead this in a very innovative way. A modern and knowledge-based bioeconomy is currently replacing conventional products by creating new, innovative and sustainable products to enable growth and provide employment opportunities. Over the last 10 years, bioeconomy has become an important issue in research and innovation policymaking, especially in industrialized countries. Many developing countries are also following the same trend, placing bioeconomy on their political and business agenda for transformation of bio-based sectors for the sustainable economic growth and development. In the previous session, I heard that Africa can leapfrog in bioeconomy because we don't need to wait for the previous transition, the previous technology. We can achieve the future industries, including the bioeconomy. I therefore believe that it is indeed timely to develop a bioeconomy strategy for Eastern Africa region and at the level of our respective member countries. It is obvious that science, technology, and innovation form a critical driver of bioeconomy. They lay the groundwork for the transition from primary production and the current use of renewable resources to more diverse opportunities for food production, industrial processes, products, and also for biofuels. The existing science, technology, innovation policies in our region and in respective country will therefore play critical role in this respect. Our region has increasingly supported stronger universities, research institutions, and innovation capabilities with a growing number of active and well-trained scientists. To date, there has been insufficient development of industrial capacity relevant to the bioeconomy. Fortunately, many countries in the region, particularly Ethiopia, has progressed in promoting agro-industrial development, which will serve as a base for expansion of bio-based business enterprises. Ethiopia has expansion of agro-processing industries, which are already in implementation and operation. We all recognize that Eastern Africa has one of the highest population growth rates in the world, while population size has been quadrupling over the past half century. The growth of agricultural production was limited to only 2%. The increasing demands for food and other goods, changes in lifestyles and climate change put pressures on our environment, resulting in depletion of natural resources. Therefore, food security is at the heart of sustainable development in the region, and we all are having challenging tasks ahead of us. A sustainable bioeconomy coupled with other supportive strategy can be the only way forward for our future economic growth and development. In order to establish a sustainable bio-based economy, research, knowledge, and innovation are essential for unlocking the productive potential of our biological resources. A more effective and environmentally friendly, resource-efficient agro-processing sector will be a central component in improving agricultural productivity, creating new jobs, and raising profitability for farmers and agribusinesses in the region. I would like to emphasize that if you want a bioeconomy, science must be given high priority. Accordingly, there is a need to increase for public funding for bioeconomy research and innovation. We also need to have wide-ranging cooperation at all levels of achieving a bioeconomy. We have to pull together new knowledge and experiences and encourage more public-private partnership. Moreover, close cooperation with private sector is an important prerequisite to ensure knowledge from universities and other institutes in disseminated prosperity. At this point, regional and continental bodies can play a crucial role in building knowledge-based bioeconomy as well as economic integration. As building bioeconomy is knowledge, infrastructure, and capital intensive, the role of these institutions will help to facilitate, to make use of regional research and development infrastructure, as well as joint technology and product development. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. So we know that bioeconomy is not confined to a particular country, but is a cross-cutting sector. And for that, we need a regional approach and a continental approach. We have a representative from the African Union Commission, Prof. Afekena Theo Jerome, who is going to speak on behalf of the African Union Commission. And we want to hear, Professor, your perspective in terms of how the continent can better leverage the potential of bioeconomy, but also to mobilize synergy among countries at the continental level so that we all together align to that philosophy of bioeconomy, bearing in mind sustainability, but also mobilizing investment. So I'm going to invite you, Professor Afekena, to give your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. Ambassador Joseph Asako very much wanted to be with us this morning. In fact, she had to leave for her multiple other tasks when we were having difficulties in connecting. And she requested me as a special advisor to please stand in for her. So I will go ahead quickly to talk to her, prepare their speech. Excellencies, esteemed panelists, the moderator, ladies and gentlemen, let me first of all thank the East African community for the invitation to participate in this ministerial panel. I also want to congratulate the East African Science and Technology Commission, both for the launch of the regional bioeconomy strategy and the bioeconomy observatory for Eastern Africa during the first session. This important conference is, however, taking place at a time when the COVID-19 pandemic has brought the world to a virtual standstill, and more than 1 million deaths recorded so far, including several in Africa. On behalf of the African Union Commission, our condolences to all those who have lost their loved ones to this pandemic, as I enjoined all of you to continue staying safe by observing the COVID-19 protocols until a vaccine is found and life can return to normal. Now, returning to the topic on board, so much has been said already, and because we are limited to our 5 minutes, I will just go straight to the point, especially by our keynote remarks by Joachim Valbrun. Invariably, establishing an advanced bioeconomy is an important first step in achieving the transition towards sustainable development and away from fossil fuels, as we were told. The emerging bioeconomy has the potential to transform primary production, especially in agriculture, aquaculture, forestry, health, and industry. Bioeconomy-driven innovation, especially through the use of modern biosciences, could be an important driver for a future green and circular economic growth in the region. It has a number of advantages, including creating new and sustainable jobs and livelihood opportunities, enhancing public health and food security, and creating a greener economy as countries shift towards a low carbon future. Invariably, looking at the scene in Africa, what is at play, you find that currently, despite immense endowment, including having about 60% of the world's uncultivated arable land, the African bioprocessing sector is running at a very suboptimal level, and it still produces large amounts of waste. That is where we are happy with the East African community, because developing a regional and national bioeconomy strategies is an important step towards transforming Africa bioeconomy. And I'm happy that the East Africa sub-region is joining South Africa, which is still the only country in Africa that has implemented a comprehensive strategy so far. Therefore, in moving forward, where can the African Union come in? Invariably, we do presume that the next step is for countries in this sub-region, in the East Africa sub-region, to develop national bioeconomy strategy, drawing from this regional strategy. These are critical for guiding investments, government intervention, and policy agendas. And the African Union stands ready to partner with the East African community to achieve this feat. We can discuss later how we can take this forward. Finally, while we don't directly have a bioeconomy strategy for Africa, on our part, we'll be doing a lot of things that are related to this strategic goal. For example, we already developed important continental frameworks, such as the Bioeconomy strategy that was unveiled last year. We are also in the process of developing a circular economy action plan, which will add value to the blue economy through the reduction of waste, and also the bioeconomy, which is being propagated in the East African sub-region. Finally, we are also working on banning single-use plastics through the work being championed by the African Union First Ladies. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your perspectives and speak from the perspective of the East Africa Commission. So we are going to have another speaker, which is Mama Keita. She's from the UNECA, and she's going to share with us perspective of UNECA, which is a very important body at a continental level, intervening and working closely with many countries. So what is your perspective, Mama Keita, as far as UNECA is concerned? How do you think bioeconomy can transform our continent, and how can you mobilize all the economic players to ensure that we harness the potential of bioeconomy? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair or Moderator. Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished participants, and thank you very much for an invitation extended to the ECA to participate in this very interesting and important topic. So first of all, let me try and put some context where we are operating in Eastern Africa. Eastern Africa is a very dynamic sub-region of Africa. Eastern Africa has been the fastest growing region in Africa before COVID, with average growth rates being above 6% from 2010 to 2019. With COVID also, this region is the region that is best coping with this crisis, with this pandemic, and growth rate is still expected to be positive despite the crisis at a small 0.7%, but still positive, while all the rest, the other sub-region will be in the experiencing a negative growth actually. So this is very encouraging. And the estimate for 2021, can you hear me? So, and the outlook for 2021 is bright because the region is coming back with, a substantive level of economic growth at 3.1, and as soon as 2022, we come back to the pre-COVID level of growth of above 6%. This is encouraging. So this is a very dynamic region with a lot of potential. That can only benefit from opening of a new avenues. In terms of, just to provide another figure, in terms of the trade in services, okay, Eastern Africa also is the sub-region in Africa that has the highest level of comparative advantage, meaning a potential for exporting its services. This is also very encouraging. Also in terms of profitability is very high of the companies operating here. I think these are figures that need to be set to be able to attract even more investors. For the past 3 years, FDIs have been flowing, increasing. This is also something that is very encouraging, and there is still room for improvement because even though it has been increasing, the rates are still a bit low. So this being said, the region is really dynamic, but it has also some challenges, which we think need to be turned into opportunities, of course. The population of the sub-region is very high, at above 400 million people. There is a need for job creation indeed to keep or to improve livelihoods. We estimate that we need to create around 7 to 8 million of jobs, decent jobs per year, which is huge. And then this calls for really all efforts for the transformation and industrialization of the economies of this sub-region. In the face of this, we are also the challenges that are exacerbated by COVID, which are the debt level that are increasing, the reduction in public revenues, while the expenditures are going up actually. So what are some of the things that we think need to be done to promote bioeconomy in the region? There is no question about the necessity to do it, but then how do we proceed and what is important? We think that it is important at least to work in two fronts. This is the supply and also the demand, because we are talking about the production and the provision of goods and services that are related to the bioeconomy. So this calls for the involvement of different actors. The private sector is the one who produce. Consumers also, they are the one who consume. If there is no demand, there is no need for production. And the state is the one who put in place all the conducive environment for all this to take place and provide all the incentives, right? And in this context, the state needs to prioritize actually with all these needs that are out there. The COVID is showing us that health is priority. That requires a lot of investment in the future and many other challenges that pre-existed. And then if the state has to really engage in developing or promoting bioeconomy, we think really that it has to be informed. Why should this one become a priority? So this calls for a lot of knowledge generation, actually know-how, also best practices, what happens in other countries that are developing bioeconomy strategies. Same thing for the private sectors. Need to be informed about the opportunities, the business opportunities, of course, the profitability, where are the niches, what needs to be done, right? Of course, there are many challenges that really call for this bioeconomy to be really developed. Many speakers who took the floor before me mentioned the issue of food security affecting millions of people in Eastern Africa and beyond in the rest of Africa. This issue is being exacerbated, for instance, by the locust crisis, which currently is the worst in 70 years, and which is about to leave 5 million people again in starvation and poverty. The floods are another issue. So all these are challenges that need to be addressed, and there is clearly opportunity for the bioeconomy to contribute to addressing these things. COVID also has shown that dependency in tourism, which characterize many countries in Eastern Africa, is not sustainable. Countries depend on tourism to contribute to the GDP, but also to create jobs. And then this vulnerability needs to be nuanced or to be mitigated, and bioeconomy provides some clear opportunity for that, to help countries to transform, to develop more manufacturers, to even industrialize the economies. And so there is need for knowledge in all these areas. For instance, we learned that South Africa, for instance, expect the bioeconomy in the coming years to contribute 30% to the GDP. So I think Eastern Africa can learn from that. For the opportunity for businesses, market opportunities, there is the upcoming African continental free trade area. As we all know, it is a huge opportunity for any business, but business needs to be prepared. And with this, you have the growing middle class in Africa that can really contribute to the demand in all the products that could be produced with the bioeconomy. You have the youthful population in Africa that all are all assets. In the pharmaceutical sector, for instance, we know that more than 70% of the needs in Africa are imported from abroad. I think that with the bioeconomy, some of these can be provisioned from internally, thereby contributing to job creation. In the energy sector, there are 600 million Africans who still don't have access to electricity. So this is huge potential, but we need to, again, deepen more on the how. Deepening value chain and regional integration. You have interesting value chain that could be deepened, such as the cotton, textile, clothing, pharmaceutical, agriculture, food processing. All these are opportunities. So we need to come together to collaborate more on this, to raise awareness of the government first, to help be with evidence-based knowledge production to establish that biotechnology is the way to go, is an imperative, and then build capacities of the private sector, of government, and of even the consumers to make any biotechnology at the region, both at the regional level and national level happen, and to help all those stakeholders to really implement those strategies, because we have strategies, but we need to implement them. We can collaborate on improvement of the regulatory framework to provide the incentives in harmonization of policies, improvement of business environment, to also remove some of the challenges that the private sector in Africa is facing, including affordability of energy, availability of energy, availability of adequate skilled labor force, access to finance for SMEs, and the other type of businesses, of course, profitability, taxation regimes. All this will be determining for the private sector to embark in these new activities and to really be profitable and to continue to prosper into this. So yes, collaborate in the deepening of the value chains, collaborate also in attracting FDIs. We can count on maybe domestic investment, but FDIs is important for several reasons. First of all, additional financing, but also the know-how. And yes, in terms of ECA does, I mean, we do think tanking, we produce knowledge, we do publications, we do policy dialogues, we do capacity buildings, and also we build partnership or strengthen them. And bioeconomy, like I said, it's knowledge-based, evidence-based policy making, so we can really collaborate. We already collaborate very well with the African Union Commission on several fronts, with the EAC also, in terms of publications such as the Economic Report on Africa, SDGs report, the Blue Economy. I think the representative of the African Union mentioned that we collaborated in endowing Africa with a Blue Economy strategy. We collaborate on AFCFTA national strategies. We are working with several countries in East Africa right now in helping them to formulate AFCFTA strategies to be ready for the opening of the big market. We are also working with the EAC for the same regional AFCFTA strategy as well, to make sure that at the regional level there is harmony with what is happening at the country level, to avoid countries to be competing and instead of building synergies. So we work on trade facilitation and industrialization strategies. We work on digitalization strategies with country. So all these are really areas where we can collaborate with our traditional partners, but with many more. So let me stop here for now, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mama Keita, for your enlightening contribution. And I'm going to open a session now that we have heard from all speakers and panelists. We thank you very much for your complementary interventions. I will just pick one comment and one question from the audience. And the first one is from Rosemary Mayaka. She's raising a very important question. How about the fact that we need also to emphasize and facilitate a harnessing of water in places that experience sporadic rains and utilize the water for irrigation farming. And in such a case, have innovators come up with a way of making this a possibility of maximizing the available resources. So she's mentioning one of the very important inputs, water. We know that a big part of Africa is covered by desert, and we know that even the area where we have water, we need to optimize the utilization of water, as water is a very important resource to enable biological resources to flourish. So I wish to hear maybe from the two ministers, if they can respond to that issue of water as a resources which can enhance bioeconomy by enhancing the productivity and the massive production of biological resources. So that correlation between water and biological resources is highlighted by one of our participants. That's one. And the second question is maybe the minister can also respond. It's just a comment. Experts can do more if leaders are committed. So we heard from the two ministers, commitment from states, but also regional bodies like UNECA, the African Union Commission. So I think this is a matter of prioritization. Bioeconomy has been presented during our discussion, the first session, even this session, as a really a sector which has a high potential. So how can we ensure that commitments are are enhanced so that we really leverage the potential of bioeconomy. So I would ask the two panelists, our honorable ministers at the state level, how do you ensure that in the wide range of priority level, how can we bioeconomy list of priorities, because we have understood the potential it can offer? And then if you can touch also the issue of water as a very important input to enhance bioeconomy. So honorable ministers, we can have maybe 1 or 2 minutes of comments from you, and also from UNECA and the African Union Commission. Thank you.
Maybe from the perspective of Uganda, certainly water is an indispensable prerequisite for, first of all, human survival, and also for the development and growth of other biological resources. So there is no doubt that governments have to invest in providing safe water for the population, but also in order for the population to thrive, we have also to support biological resources by providing water. It's also important to note that even bio-based industries will need sufficient water for them to be able to have businesses, to have industrial processes. Therefore, the issue of water is so critical to a bioeconomy, and sometimes we assume that this is granted and it's available. But there is a lot of work that needs to be put in providing for water security. With respect to expert can do and the commitments of governments, I think it's our responsibility as governments, first of all, to establish enabling policies and regulatory frameworks as governments. We also, as national governments, need to address inconsistencies across sectors. We need to update or review our strategic plans, laws, and policies, or in some cases, develop new policies in order to raise the level of cross-sectoral coherences. We also have to ensure that bioeconomy policies are supported by significant communication effort towards the general public and ensure societal acceptance of an active involvement in the bioeconomy. And we as a region also need to provide the incentives as a region, so that somebody investing in Kenya can also maybe know that there is a market, and of course we already have regional markets in East Africa. We have regional markets at commercial level, but also now the continental free trade area. So governments at regional level have to work together to provide the incentives that can enable investments in our bioeconomy. Also, individual governments have a duty to allocate sufficient funds for supporting the bioeconomy infrastructure, as in addition to enabling legal, regulatory, and institutional frameworks. So there is a lot that governments can work and can do, and also a lot that as a region we can also put in place. I already talked about earlier on the issue of providing business incubation and technopark infrastructure and services that can assist emerging innovation actors with product and enterprise development and others. So at our level, there is a lot that we can do. I know there is much that is anticipated through oil and gas sector, but we certainly have to manage it in such a way that we strategically invest in a more sustainable future, which rests in the bioeconomy. And also to ensure that the bio-based products and services compete favorably for markets within Africa and internationally. One speaker did mention the population issue. Like our 6 countries in East Africa, we are now 180 million, but by 2050, we shall be 412 million people. In Africa, about 1.3 billion now. By 2050, we shall be approaching 2.5 billion, and maybe 1 in 4 people on this planet will be in Africa. And therefore, this presents huge challenges in terms of providing enough food for these people, providing clothing, providing shelter, providing water, and other necessities. And you realize that most of these can be provided through supporting strong bioeconomies, through supporting programs that will ensure sustainable development. I don't know, maybe that's my contribution from Uganda, but certainly water plays a big role, and at the same time as governments, we've got to be committed to the promotion of bioeconomy and the harnessing of our diversity in biosciences. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ignace. I think I would like to first highlight the basic 3 elements of the biotechnology, and then we'll move to the water and other resources. I think it is good to start from the definition of the bioeconomy, which is a knowledge-based production and utilization of biological resources, biological processes, and principles to sustainably provide goods and services across all economic sectors. So it includes all the economic sectors within this economy area. So the 3 elements are the utilization of renewable biomasses to achieve a sustainable production, the utilization of enabling and covering technologies, including biotechnology, and integration of across applications such as agriculture, health, and the industry. So one of the most likely effect of the bioeconomy is intensification of agriculture, forestry, and aquaculture, with the consequent pressure on natural and artificial resources. These are water is one of the natural and artificial resource, land, and various chemicals used in agriculture. So it is very clear that agricultural water use should be very considered for this bioeconomy, and definitely it will be very helpful for the African integration of this economy. So improving the water use efficiency for the sustainable bioeconomic sector, as well as reducing the water pollution, are very important and critical issues for Africa. So it is, as a joint and different institution, has to work in ensuring the provision of water resources for the agriculture, for forestry, and freshwater aquaculture sector. For example, Ethiopia, we have an initiative by the Prime Minister named Green Legacy. It is planting a lot of trees, billions of trees in a year, so that we can protect our natural resources, we can protect the pollution of the water. So I think it is very critical to consider the water, the natural and the artificial resources as an important. Protecting human against health risks is part of something that we can see within this area. So I think water is very critical and important for this initiative. In addition to that, Dr. Patrick, I want to raise one thing related to digital economy and bioeconomy. So as you know, Ethiopia, back in June, the cabinet minister has endorsed the Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy, and this strategy is working towards achieving inclusive prosperity. So in addition to the development and approval of this bioeconomy strategy, I think Ethiopia will work to create awareness platform to disseminate information by using the digital transformation plan. The digital transformation plan is already implemented. So we are reaching to the regional, the city level, and we started implementing different initiatives. So within this platform, we will include the bioeconomy issue. For example, what is bioeconomy mean? Creating an awareness about the meaning, the potential, the advantage of bioeconomy is very necessary and important. The second, bioeconomy contribution on our GDP. If you see other countries, they use water pollution as an indicator, a matrix for measuring bioeconomy. So bioeconomy contribution on our GDP, how it is related with the plan of incrementing for the coming 10 years, because we do have a development plan, which is also taking into the implementation and being operational starting this year. What is value addition regarding to bioeconomy? I think creating awareness about these issues, answering these issues to the community, to the research community, is very necessary and important, including stating proper process design, standard and so on for specific, because we do have customers, the process designed for local customers and customers in different region. In East Africa region has their own standard and requirement to be fulfilled. So this determines how we can define the value addition required, as well as the wealth generated out of the wealth generated for the nation, out of the job created for the nation, out of the GDP contribution from the bioeconomy are very necessary and important. And Ethiopia will work very hard in this area together with the East Africa region. Thank you.
Very much. So I will maybe turn to Dr. from the European Union, and we know that which is now dating, it's shown that we have in Europe the bioeconomy itself has employed in 2014 18.6 million people and generated approximately 2.2 trillion euro. This is a report which has been issued by European Union. The role of the private. So could you please shed more light about what you see as the challenges to any successful implementation of bioeconomy, but also what are the success factors as far as implementing the bioeconomy is concerned, taking into account the development of bioeconomy in Europe? Could you please intervene on that aspect? Hello, do we have Mr. Mario with us?
Yes, sorry, it was breaking and it was not clear if the question was addressed to me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there are many challenges that need to be addressed in developing the bioeconomy. So from a European perspective, first of all, for us it's important to acknowledge that Europe has different regions with different specificities, and the bioeconomy is not actually one. So there are different bioeconomies with different specificities depending on the region, with some regions having more potential to develop their agricultural sector. Some regions in the north have more potential on the forestry sector. Some have specialized on the chemicals production, on food system. Some are coastal regions. So there are different ways that the bioeconomy can be shaped. And from a EU perspective, to help those regions, to help those countries to develop their bioeconomies, the policy framework needs to be broad and taking into account those specificities. So main elements that are, of course, applicable to different bioeconomies is the mobilization of investments, including from the private sector. So investments on the bioeconomy, and Europe is investing both public and private funds in the different bioeconomy areas. Very important is the predictability of the regulatory environment, and this is very important, again, linked to the previous point, to facilitate investments from the private sector. So uncertain political perspective is not a good environment for the private sector to invest in. Another element I would say is the coherence of policies. So bioeconomy is relevant for different policies, touches on different issues. Water was mentioned before. There are the climate change, agriculture, forestry related policies related to the industry. All these policies need to be together coherent in taking forward the bioeconomy and not having contradictory objectives. Another element is the involvement of different stakeholders. So the engagement, as I said, bioeconomy is different. So the regions need to be involved. The local level need to be involved. Cities need to be involved, and industry needs to be involved. Then another element is the compatibility or the good alignment with the global policy developments. So we have climate change, we have the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's very important that the bioeconomy framework is aligned to contribute to these global policy objectives. And last but not least, one important element is the having robust knowledge, having robust data, and very close monitoring of how the bioeconomy is developed to make sure, indeed, that is sustainable, and sustainable, again, meaning not just environmental, economic, social dimensions as well. So in a nutshell, I would say that these are the main elements. And for us, coming from the Joint Research Center, the last point I mentioned, knowledge, is the area that we work, the area that we're trying to cover and support the bioeconomy in Europe. And we look forward to collaborate with African institutions in sharing this knowledge and helping them in developing the bioeconomies in Eastern Africa.
Thank you very much for your contribution. So I will take one question from the audience, which talk about a very important point, the contribution of youth. And the question will be addressed to Dr. Mama Keita, or from the representative from the African Union Commission. It's about the country regional bodies experience in terms of youth participation and access to bioeconomies. How flexible are our financial institutions in financing bioeconomy program considering high lending interest rates? So it's a cross-cutting issue which is not limited to bioeconomy, but also can be tagged to many sectors, including ICT, digital economy. So access to finance in order to enhance innovation, but also research. So I would maybe for 1 minute each, if I can have a perspective from African Union Commission and the UNECA about youth participation in bioeconomy and access to finance. Your perspective at a continental level. Thank you. Can we start by Dr. Mama Keita?
Thank you very much, moderator. Thank you for the question. I mean, by no means the question is important. Youth need to be associated to the management of all the natural resources that we have, because we will be living longer than the older generation. So it is important for them to be associated. Now, the how access to finance is something very very delicate, and especially if it is to do profitable activities. So, I mean, they can be associated with all the policies that are discussed and all the regulatory framework that need to be put in place to develop, to promote, to provide all the incentive to, to foster the bioeconomy. Now, if it is in terms of access to finance, it is true, it is a very, very big issue in most African countries, if not in all African countries. The issue is that, I mean, the finance is the resources of household who put their money in the financial sector to be landed, to be safe and to provide some profit. So they expect that it is used in an efficient manner and to provide profit to them. It is everybody's money. So this is an issue that needs to be tackled. How do you first of all, build the capacities of these youth or the SMEs, on all those people who need to have access to finance? How do you build also these credit records? You need to build trust, to be able to have a history that shows that you have, you respect the repayment of your loans. So these are really specific issues that need to be tackled, and it's not an issue that is only proper to the youth only, or to the private sector only. Even right now, the states themselves, they need resources to address the COVID issues. They need resources to tackle the development issues, infrastructure, energy, all these things that are needed. And they borrow on international markets. And for that, they need to establish trust, the credibility. The same for the youth. It is an issue. It needs to be addressed by different stakeholders, but it is definitely an important issue. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Maybe just 1 minute to African professor.
Yes, thank you,
on
moderator.
The same issue.
Yes, on the role of youth, you find that invariably, Africa is the most youthful continent in the world, and 12 million youths, about that, enters the labor market every year. So the bioeconomy is an opportunity for us to create sustainable jobs for our youths. So what I will employ is that the national strategies should recognize this. I mean, I'm from the Department of Agriculture. We have difficulty in that the youth don't want to go to traditional agriculture because they feel it's not sexy enough. But if we are able to develop the bioeconomy, this is an opportunity for us to create sustainable jobs for them. And that invariably will mean we need to build their capacity as well as providing them the enabling environment through finance. Finally, the point I want to make is that we've not talked much about it here. I do believe that universities will have a major role to play in this transformation to the bioeconomy. They need to be brought on board. I mean, they need to provide the skills which will be needed for countries to be able to internalize this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I saw on the chat that there are still some questions. We cannot cover all the questions. We are close to the end of our session. So, but there is one question. I think we can have just a word during the closing remarks from you panelists. It's about balancing international funding and the regional value appropriation within the strategy of bioeconomy. So there is in that question, the issue of intellectual property. How do we own the knowledge generated from and the value generated from the bioeconomy? And I think the questions are covered in the strategy. If you get the opportunity to touch on that point, maybe you can do it during the closing remarks. So allow me to thank you very much for your contribution and the participant for the questions you asked. Even if you didn't respond to all the questions, I think those questions have covered a wide range of matters. So I will give you really a very short time, half a minute or one maximum for each panelist to give your closing remarks and what you can take home as we are closing this session. I will start by the Honorable Minister from Uganda, and then the Honorable Minister from Ethiopia, and then we'll have the representative from the European Union, and then UNECA, and they will complete by African Union Commission. Can we go by that order and have your closing remarks? Just 1 minute. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, moderator. I think from the perspective of Uganda, going forward by way of action plan, I think the major issue that we have to handle is how do we tap into the creativity of young Africans or young Ugandans to help them translate research and development outputs into commercialized outcomes, from ideas to market, from theory to action. And this means that we must focus on investments in research, innovation, and skills. We must enhance digital transformation of our countries. They are interrelated in supporting bioeconomies. We must reinforce policy interaction and stakeholder engagement. We must enhance market and competitiveness in the bioeconomy sector. In my other capacity as chair of the AU Specialized Technical Committee on Education, Science and Technology, I must emphasize that at Africa level, we are establishing the Education, Science and Technology Fund. And hopefully this, if supported, of course, initially with African Development Bank, if supported with partner states putting in money and various donors, we should be able to have a special focus on interventions related to bioeconomy to ensure that our young people, our startup enterprises, do not die in the valley of death or sea of bureaucracy, but come out to be viable businesses that will translate into knowledge-based economy and strengthen Africa in the bioeconomy sector and also other sectors of the economy. I want to thank you once again for the opportunity and look forward to the second East African Regional Conference on Bioeconomy. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much. I think it was a very great, insightful and very informative panel discussion today. We have shared a lot of information, and I have a lot of takeaways from the experiences of different countries, especially on how we should work towards achieving bioeconomy by institutional collaboration and by sticking with the sustainable development targets. So we should consider different things, starting from collaboration, starting from different funding initiatives, and other initiatives. So working toward this, another important issue that Ethiopia will take is working toward this, the combination of bioeconomy and digital economy that could play a critical role for the sustainable and economic development. And Ethiopia has identified both and other emerging future technologies, advances within the visionary and bold 10 years development plan to be a prosperous country. So it is very, very important to have a consensus on some of the issues, such as on how we can measure the progress of bioeconomy throughout the countries. So next year, when you come to evaluate the progress of bioeconomy in Ethiopia, how we can evaluate in Kenya, in Rwanda, in Uganda, how we are going to evaluate. So these kinds of consensus are very critical and important, and Ethiopia will be committed to contribute and to be part of every initiative. Finally, I would like to thank the moderator, Dr. Ignes Gatare, my panelists, Dr. His Excellency, the Minister, and other panelists, as well as the attendees. Thank you so much.